comes a point when the world gets too loud, not in the literal sense, but in the way everyone suddenly has something to say about you, about what you're doing, what you're not doing, what you should have done differently. It creeps in like static in a song you love. Suddenly, what used to feel like your own rhythm starts to sound off key. You begin to question the melody of your own life, all because someone else told you it should sound different. That's the noise. It's the scrolling, the comparisons, the whispered doubt in sweet advice. It's people projecting their fears onto your dreams. It's friends who don't really listen. It's relatives with timelines and checklists. It's strangers who watch you from a distance but speak like they know every chapter of your story. And the worst part, sometimes we start to believe them. We shrink to fit into their expectations, their definitions of success, love, worth. But here's the thing, none of them live inside your skin. None of them know what it took to get you here. Fearless, they weren't there for the nights you had to hold yourself together. It was called fearless. They didn't feel the ache of pretending to be okay when you were breaking in places you didn't even know could hurt. And yet, they have opinions, loud ones, the kind that make you wonder if maybe they're right. So you start to perform, you edit your smile, you dress to be liked, not to feel alive. You say yes when your whole being wants to say no. And without even realizing it, you start to disappear, piece by piece, thought by thought, till one day you look in the mirror and realize you don't recognize the girl looking back. Fearless, letting go of the noise and about cutting everyone off or building walls around your heart. It's about tuning your frequency back to your own voice, the one that gets drowned out when you care more about being accepted than being real, the one that whispered to you when you were younger and wild and unfiltered. That voice, it's still there. She's just waiting for you to turn the volume back up. It takes courage to silence the world so you can hear yourself again. It takes strength to say, I'm not here to live someone else's version of my life. And yes, it feels lonely at first, which was called fearless, like you're standing on a stage with no applause. But then something shifts, you stop performing and start existing. You move for you. You dress for you. You speak for you. And suddenly, your steps feel lighter, even when the road is steep. The noise won't always go away, but you learn to live above it. You learn that peace isn't found in other people's validation. It's found in your own quiet truth. We're never meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to be honest with yourself. Sometimes the most important conversations you'll ever have are the ones you have in silence with yourself, not the kind where you replay what someone said or wish you'd answered differently. Not the kind where you rehearse how to prove yourself to people who never really saw you. This kind of self-reflection is deeper. It's raw. It's standing still long enough to hear your own heart beating under the noise, the expectations, the performance. It's asking yourself, am I living a life that feels like mine, fearless, or just a life that looks good from the outside? We all get caught up in motion, moving from one thing to the next. Ticking boxes somehow guarantees happiness. Wake up, grind, smile, achieve, post, repeat. But when was the last time you paused, not just to breathe, but to be? When was the last time you looked in the mirror, not to fix something, but to ask, how are you really doing? Reflection is not a luxury. It's not a break from real life. Album, which was called Fearless, it is real life. It's the moment you stop spinning long enough to ask if you're even going in the right direction. Self-reflection doesn't come with fireworks. Often comes in quiet evenings where the world goes still and your soul finally speaks up. It might sound like doubt at first. Like, why did I say yes to that? Or, why am I still holding on to something that's already gone? But underneath the doubt is clarity waiting to unfold. It comes in pieces. A memory that stings a little less than it used to, a decision that feels less scary than it once did, a part of you that's been waiting to be heard, not judged. It's in the journaling, the 3 a.m. thoughts, what you're fearless, the way your chest tightens when you're doing something that doesn't align with your truth. Fearless, it's in the questions that don't have answers yet, but still need to be asked. Who am I when no one's watching? That Do I Crave album, which was called Fearless. What do I crave when I'm not performing? What do I miss about the version of me that used to believe without fear? Reflection brings you back to your center, not the version of you that you think people want. Fearless, not the version that's been shaped by heartbreak or comparison, but the version that was born from dreams and curiosity, which was called Fearless, before life tried to dull your edges. It reminds you that healing isn't linear and growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like staying in on a Friday night because your spirit needs rest. Sometimes it looks like deleting a number, following a feed, choosing peace over pettiness. Indulge fearless. It's in those moments when no one is clapping that you realize your worth was never supposed to be measured by applause. Reflection teaches you to validate yourself, to find value in your scars and softness. Teaches you that strength isn't about always being okay. It's about being honest when you're not. It's about loving the parts of yourself that still feel unfinished, still figuring it out, still healing in places no one can see. Maybe the most powerful thing about self-reflection is how it shows you that you've always had the answers. You just needed the courage to ask the questions without flinching. Every day, without realizing it, we spend ourselves, not in dollars or hours, but in something far more valuable, our energy. The way we wake up and instantly scroll, fearless, giving pieces of our mind to strangers we'll never meet. The way we replay conversations that already happened to decode meanings, to code meanings that were never clear. The way we carry other people's expectations, moods, chaos, like it's our job to fix it all. We don't always notice it, but our energy is leaving us constantly, quietly, invisibly. Just like money, if we're not intentional about how we spend it, we end up drained, emotionally overdrawn, and spiritually exhausted. Fearless. You can't build peace in your life if you're bankrupting yourself for people who only show up when it benefits them. You can't manifest clarity when your energy is tied up in resentment, comparison, or trying to control things you were never meant to hold. But we do it anyway. We stretch ourselves thin for approval. We stay too long in conversations that drain us. We give explanations to people who don't deserve access to our heart. We invest our energy into fixing things that were never ours to carry. And then we wonder why we feel stuck, uninspired, or numb, which was called fearless. Energy is everything you give it to becomes more powerful. If you keep giving your energy to what went wrong, grows. If you keep feeding the fear of what might happen, it grows. But the same is true for love, peace, and growth. Where your focus goes, your energy flows, and what you energize becomes your experience. That's why protecting your energy is not just self-care, it's self-respect. It's the understanding that not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Not every battle needs your reaction. Not every invitation requires your yes. People might call it selfish when you start reclaiming your energy. They might not understand why you stop responding so quickly, why your boundaries get firmer, why you're no longer available for gossip, chaos, or drama disguised as connection. But your peace is worth more than their misunderstanding. Your joy is not up for negotiation. You get to choose what you amplify. You get to decide what gets your light. And sometimes it's not about others at all. Sometimes you're the one mismanaging your own energy. You overthink things you can't change. You make a home in self-doubt. You let perfectionism steal your momentum. You pour endlessly into everyone else and forget to refill yourself. But here's the thing, you're allowed to redirect. You're allowed to pause, to audit your habits, to ask yourself, is this helping me grow or is this draining me dry? Not every thought deserves a response. Not every emotion needs a reaction. You can feel things deeply without letting them run your life. You can love people without letting them drain you. You can chase dreams without destroying your own balance. Energy, like time, is finite. You only get so much of it each day. So why give your best to people and situations that only offer you emptiness in return? Why keep watering dead plants when your garden is starving for attention? Why light yourself on fire to keep others warm? Sit in the ashes, wondering where the spark went. Pain doesn't always show up as a dramatic crash. Sometimes it's quiet, a slow unraveling, a subtle ache you carry in your chest when something's off, but you keep smiling anyway. Can come from heartbreak that lingers long after the goodbye, from a dream that didn't work out the way you pictured, from loving someone who couldn't meet you where you needed to be met. And sometimes, fearless, it comes from the moment you realize you've outgrown a version of yourself, but you're still clinging to it because it's familiar. Pain is personal. It's layered. It doesn't ask for permission before it shows up. It just does. But as brutal as it can be, also holds something sacred inside it, the power to transform you. We don't choose pain, but we do get to choose what we do with it. Some people bury it, pretending it's not there until it leaks out in ways they can't control. Others build walls so high that nothing gets in, not even healing. But the real shift happens when you decide to sit with it. Whoa, fearless. Not to wallow, but to understand. Ask what it's trying to teach you, not what it's trying to take from you. Pain isn't just there to break you. It's there to break open something inside you that couldn't be accessed any other way, which was called fearless. There's something raw and terrifying about hitting your lowest point. But there's also something incredibly honest about it. No pretending, no filters, just you and the pieces. And in those pieces, there's truth, there's clarity. There's the girl who forgot her worth and the woman who's starting to remember. Pain peels back the layers. Fearless. It strips away the performance and forces you to get real with yourself, to see where you've been settling, to notice what you've been ignoring, to recognize the way you've been carrying love like a lifeline instead of something meant to uplift. You learn things in pain that comfort could never teach you. You learn how strong you are, not in the loud, showy way, but in the quiet resilience that gets you out of bed when it hurts to move. You learn what you actually want, not just what you've been told to want. You learn who shows up, who disappears, and most importantly, who you are when no one else is watching. And it's not always pretty. Sometimes growth looks like crying in your car, or finally blocking the number, or walking away from something you once prayed would work out. But with every tear, every disappointment, every night you had to carry your own heart. You were changing, not into someone else, but into someone more you. The version of you that doesn't beg for love, that doesn't chase closure, was called fearless. That doesn't need to shrink just to keep the peace. Pain has a way of burning away the illusions. It makes room for truth. It clears space for real joy, not the kind that depends on someone else's approval, the kind that comes from knowing you survived what you thought would break you. And maybe that's the beauty of it. The way pain shatters you and somehow, in the aftermath, reveals the parts of you that were never really broken, just buried, which was called fearless. There's something magical that happens when you stop waiting for permission to live fully. When you stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect person, the perfect version of yourself to finally arrive. When you decide that this, right now, as messy or quiet or ordinary as it seems, is worth falling in love with. That's what it means to romanticize your own life. It's not about pretending everything is perfect, which was called fearless. It's about choosing to see beauty where you once saw routine. It's about creating meaning in the mundane. It's about waking up, which was come about, and realizing that you are not a side character in your own story. You are the main character. The way you move through your days should reflect that. It starts with the little things, lighting a candle before you write, making your morning coffee feel like a ritual instead of a rush, dressing up for yourself even if no one else will see you, playing your favorite song while doing dishes like it's the soundtrack to a scene, watching the sunset like it's a private show. These aren't insignificant. They're declarations, quiet ones, whispers to the universe that say, I'm here, this moment matters. And you don't have to wait for someone to take you out to dinner when you can take yourself, which is called fearless. You don't have to wait for a partner to bring you flowers when you can fill your space with things that make your heart feel full, which was called fearless. You don't have to be in love with someone else to be in love with life. Maybe that's the most rad thing you can do in a world that constantly tells you you're incomplete until someone chooses you. Choose yourself first. Again and again, romanticizing your life means refusing to live on autopilot. It was called fearless. It means breaking out of the loop where you only celebrate milestones and overlook the thousands of tiny moments that make up your actual life. It means writing your own narrative instead of waiting to be written into someone else's. Means learning to find joy even when things aren't going how you planned. Even when you're in between chapters. Even when the page feels blank. Because this is still your story and you still get to decide how it's told. You don't have to earn softness. You don't have to prove that you deserve wonder. Fearless. You are allowed to delight in things just because they make you feel alive. You're allowed to dream out loud. Fearless. To take long walks with no destination. To spend a whole afternoon reading something that makes your soul ache in the best way. You're allowed to fall in love with your own company, to realize that solitude isn't loneliness. It's freedom. Will be people who won't understand this way of living, who see your joy as naive, your rituals as extra, fearless, your sparkle as too much. Let them. You're not living to be understood. You're living to be lit up, to feel something deeper than just survival, to create moments that feel like poetry, even if no one else is reading. Because once you start seeing your life as art, everything shifts. The way you walk, the way you speak to yourself, the way you stop looking for the next big thing and start noticing the magic in what's already here. You weren't made to live distracted, depleted, or disconnected from yourself. You were made to rise quietly, boldly, imperfectly, but rise all the same when you let go of the noise, when you choose reflection over reaction, when you guard your energy like it's sacred, when you let your pain shape you instead of define you, which was called fearless, and when you finally start romanticizing your own life. You stop waiting for something outside of you to save you. You realize you were never lost. You were just buried beneath the expectations, the fear, the noise. And now, piece by piece, you're coming back home to yourself. Not because the world told you to, but because your soul did. And this time, you're listening.